Every year, America's map changes. Towns grow, cities shrink. People move from place to place looking for better jobs and safer homes. Some places get bigger and stronger. Others get smaller and weaker until they almost disappear. Today we're going to talk about 7 American towns that might not make it to 2030. That's only 6 years from now. We'll also look at 2 towns that could beat the odds and survive. Why do some towns die while others live? It comes down to a few simple things. Towns need jobs so people can make money. They need young families with kids. They need good schools and safe streets. When these things go away, towns start to die. The problem is getting worse across America. In 2012 and 2013, 83 small cities lost people. That's way more than the 36 cities that lost people in the mid-2000s. More and more small towns are struggling to survive. This has been happening for almost 100 years. When cars became popular, people could drive to bigger cities for work and shopping. Small town stores couldn't compete with big city malls and supermarkets. Many local businesses had to close. Highways made the problem worse. New roads went around small towns instead of through them. People driving cross-country would skip these towns completely. Gas stations, restaurants, and hotels lost customers. Main Street became empty. Let's start our journey through these struggling towns. First, we'll visit 2 places that show how quickly things can go wrong. Cairo, Illinois. The town that time forgot. Cairo sits at the very bottom tip of Illinois, where 2 big rivers meet. The Ohio River and Mississippi River come together right here. You'd think this would make Cairo a perfect place for boats and trade. For many years it was. During the Civil War, Cairo was important because it controlled river traffic. Soldiers used it as a base. Mark Twain wrote about Cairo in his famous book about Huckleberry Finn. The town had grand hotels, busy docks, and thousands of people. But Cairo's problems started early. The town sits on low ground between the rivers. This makes flooding a constant threat. Big walls called levees protect the town, but they also cut it off from the rivers that once brought business. Race problems made things much worse. In the 1960s, Cairo had terrible racial violence. White people and black people fought in the streets. The National Guard had to come keep peace. Many businesses closed. Families moved away to escape the trouble. Today, Cairo looks like a ghost town. The population dropped from 15,000 people in 1920 to less than 2,000. That's a loss of almost 90% of the people. Entire city blocks sit empty. Buildings fall down and nobody fixes them. The main shopping area downtown is mostly vacant. Weeds grow through cracks in the sidewalks. Street lights are broken. The few stores still open struggle to find customers. Even the McDonald's closed down. Cairo's schools merged with nearby districts because there weren't enough kids. The hospital closed. The police force is tiny. Basic services that people need are disappearing one by one. The town can't afford to fix roads or water pipes. Some areas don't have clean drinking water. Sewage systems are falling apart. Without money coming in from taxes, Cairo can't provide what residents need. Cairo shows how fast a town can collapse when everything goes wrong at once. Racial problems, flooding, economic changes, and poor leadership all combine to destroy what was once a thriving river town. Will Cairo survive to 2030? The odds look very bad. With so few people left and so many problems, it would take a miracle to turn things around in just 6 years. Centralia, Pennsylvania. The town above hell. Centralia, Pennsylvania used to be a normal small town with about 2,000 people. Kids went to school. Adults worked in local businesses. Families lived in nice houses on tree-lined streets. Today, Centralia is almost completely empty because the ground beneath it has been on fire for over 60 years. The fire started in 1962 when someone was burning trash at the town dump. The fire spread to old coal mines under the ground. Coal seams run all through this area of Pennsylvania. Once the underground coal caught fire, it became almost impossible to put out. At first, people didn't think the fire was a big problem, but it kept spreading under the town. The ground got hot. Smoke came up through cracks in streets and yards. Poisonous gases leaked into basements and homes. The fire made the ground unstable. Sinkholes opened up suddenly. Roads cracked and buckled from the heat. Sometimes the pavement got so hot you couldn't walk on it. Steam rose from manholes like something from a horror movie. Carbon monoxide gas seeped into people's houses. This invisible gas can kill you if you breathe too much. Families had to install special systems to keep the gas out. Some people got sick from breathing bad air. The government tried to put out the fire many times. They dug trenches to stop it from spreading. They pumped water on it. They tried cutting off the fire's oxygen supply. Nothing worked. The fire just kept burning and moving under the town. By the 1980s, it was clear the fire couldn't be stopped. The government decided it was too dangerous for people to live in Centralia anymore. They offered to buy everyone's house and help them move away. Most people took the money and left. Today, only about 10 people still live in Centralia. The government knocked down most of the buildings. Streets go nowhere because all the houses are gone. Nature is taking back the empty lots where families used to live. Our journey through America's dying towns is just beginning. Next, we'll visit more places where people are fighting to save their communities against tough odds. Some might make it. Others probably won't. But all of these stories teach us something important about what makes a place worth living in. Butte, Montana. When the earth runs out. High in the mountains of Montana sits Butte, a city that once called itself the richest hill on earth. For over 100 years, this was one of the most important mining towns in America. Copper from Butte helped build the modern world. Telegraph wires, telephone lines, and electrical systems all needed copper to work. At its peak in the early 1900s, Butte had over 100,000 people. It was the biggest city between Minneapolis and Seattle. The mines ran day and night. Immigrants came from Ireland, Italy, China, and many other countries to work in the dangerous underground tunnels. Butte was rough and wild like an Old West movie. Miners worked hard and played hard. The city had more bars per person than anywhere else in America. People said you could get a drink, a meal, and a bed on every block downtown. But mining copper was terrible for the environment and deadly for workers. Men died in cave-ins, explosions, and fire. Many got sick from breathing poisonous dust and gases. The mining companies dumped waste all over the area, without caring about pollution. The real problems started when the copper ran out. By the 1970s, most of the valuable ore was gone. The big mining companies closed their operations and left town. Thousands of jobs disappeared almost overnight. Today, Butte has only about 35,000 people. That's less than half the population it had 50 years ago. Young people leave for college and don't come back because there aren't good jobs. The population gets older every year. Will Butte survive to 2030? The town has some advantages. It's the county seat and has a small university. Some mining still continues, but unless new industries move in soon, Butte could shrink to half its current size or smaller. Gary, Indiana. The steel city that rusted away. Gary, Indiana was built by the U.S. Steel Corporation in 1906 as the perfect industrial city. The company chose this spot on Lake Michigan because ships could bring iron ore from Minnesota and coal from Pennsylvania. Everything was planned to make steel as efficiently as possible. For decades, Gary was an industrial powerhouse. During World War II, steel from Gary helped build ships, tanks, and weapons. The city grew to almost 80,000 people by night. Workers made good money in the steel mill. Families bought houses and cars. Kids went to good schools. But Gary's success depended completely on one industry: steel. When that industry changed, the city collapsed faster than almost any place in America. Starting in the 1970s, American steel companies faced tough competition from other countries. Japan and other nations could make steel cheaper. Environmental rules made steel production more expensive. Many steel mills closed or moved to other countries where labor was cheaper. As the steel industry died, so did Gary. The population dropped from 80,000 in 1960 to less than 70,000 today. That's a loss of more than 60% of the people. Entire neighborhoods became empty. Crime exploded as jobs disappeared. With little legitimate work available, some people turned to drugs and violence. Gary became one of the most dangerous cities in America. Murders, robberies, and drug dealing made people afraid to go out at night. The city government is broke. Gary can't afford to maintain all its streets, water lines, and sewage systems. Some areas have been abandoned completely. The city encourages people to move out of empty neighborhoods so they can shut off services there. Will Gary survive? The city will probably still exist, but it might have only 40,000 or 50,000 people. That would make it less than 1/4 the size it was at its peak. Gary shows how quickly a city can collapse when it depends too much on one dying industry. Niagara Falls, New York. Paradise Lost. When most people hear Niagara Falls, they think of the famous waterfalls on the border between New York and Canada. The Canadian side of Niagara Falls is a major tourist destination, with hotels, restaurants, and attractions. But the American side tells a very different story. Niagara Falls, New York used to be an important industrial city. The massive waterfalls provided cheap hydroelectric power for factories. Chemical companies, steel mills, and other manufacturers built plants there to take advantage of the cheap electricity. The city also benefited from tourism. People came from around the world to see the falls. Hotels, restaurants, and gift shops did good business. Niagara Falls seemed to have everything: industry and tourism supporting each other. But starting in the 1970s, both pillars of the economy began to crumble. Many factories closed as companies moved operations to places with cheaper labor. The chemical industry left behind serious pollution problems that made some areas too dangerous to live in. Tourism shifted away from the American side to the Canadian side. The Canadian government invested heavily in making their side attractive to visitors. They built better hotels, restaurants, and viewing areas. The American side looked run down and unsafe by comparison. However, Niagara Falls does have some unique advantages. The waterfalls themselves are a world-famous attraction that brings millions of visitors. The city has been working to redevelop the area around the falls to capture more tourist dollars. Some new businesses and attractions have opened in recent years. The city is trying to create a better connection between the tourist areas and the rest of downtown. There's also potential for more hydroelectric power development. The city has received state and federal money for redevelopment projects. Some old industrial sites are being cleaned up and prepared for new uses. There's talk of building a new convention center and more hotels. Will Niagara Falls, New York survive to 2030? The city has better chances than some others because of the tourist attraction, but it will probably continue to shrink unless major new investments create jobs for local residents. The city might stabilize at around 40,000 people, but that's still much smaller than it once was. These three towns show different ways that American cities can decline. Butte lost its natural resources. Gary lost its main industry to global competition. Niagara Falls lost both industry and tourism to other places. All three are struggling to find new reasons for people to stay and build their lives there. The pattern is similar everywhere. When the main source of jobs disappears, people leave. When people leave, businesses close. When businesses close, the tax base shrinks. When taxes fall, city services get worse. This downward spiral is hard to stop once it starts. But our story isn't over yet. Some towns are finding ways to fight back and create new futures for themselves. In our next section, we'll see how a few places are beating the odds and proving that small-town America still has some fight left. Flint, Michigan. When the water turns poison. Flint, Michigan was once the proud home of General Motors. For decades, this city of about 200,000 people built cars, trucks, and the American dream. Good union jobs at GM plants paid workers enough to buy houses, raise families, and send kids to college. But like many Midwest industrial cities, Flint's problems started when the auto industry changed. General Motors began moving jobs to other states and countries where labor was cheap. Plant after plant closed in Flint. By 2010, the population had dropped to less than 100,000 people. Losing half the population created a huge problem for city government. With so many fewer people paying taxes, Flint couldn't afford basic service. The state of Michigan took control of the city's finances and appointed emergency managers to make tough decisions. In 2014, one of these emergency managers made a decision that would make Flint famous around the world, and not in a good way. To save money, the city switched its water supply from Detroit's system to the Flint River. This decision poisoned an entire city. The Flint River water was more corrosive than Detroit water. It ate away at old lead pipes throughout the city. Lead leaked into the drinking water that families used for cooking, bathing, and drinking. Lead poisoning is especially dangerous for children because it can damage their brains permanently. The water system has been mostly fixed, but trust takes much longer to rebuild than pipe. Many residents still buy bottled water or use filters because they don't believe city water is safe. The psychological damage may last for generations. Flint does have some advantages. It's close to Detroit and other Michigan cities. The cost of living is very low. Some organizations are working to bring new businesses and help existing residents improve their neighborhoods. But the challenges are enormous. Flint needs to rebuild both its infrastructure and its reputation. The city must prove to the world that it can provide basic services safely and reliably. That's going to take many years and lots of money. Will Flint survive to 20? Some neighborhoods will likely be abandoned completely. Flint shows how quickly a crisis can destroy decades of progress and trust. Stockton, California. Broke in the Golden State. Stockton sits in California's Central Valley about 80 miles east of San Francisco. You might think being in California would protect a city from the problems facing Rust Belt towns. But Stockton proves that even cities in growing states can face serious trouble. Stockton was built as a farming and shipping center. The city sits on waterways that connect to San Francisco Bay, making it easy to move crops to market. During California's growth boom, Stockton grew along with the rest of the state, but Stockton made some bad financial decisions that nearly destroyed the city. During the housing boom of the 2000s, the city spent money it didn't have on big projects. Officials borrowed heavily, thinking rising property values would provide tax money to pay the bills. When the housing bubble burst in 2008, Stockton was in serious trouble. Property values crashed, tax revenues fell. The city still owed huge amounts of money, but had much less income to pay its debts. Stockton became the largest American city to declare bankruptcy at that time. Stockton does have some advantages. It's located between San Francisco and Sacramento with good highway access. The cost of housing is much lower than in the Bay Area, which attracts some commuters. The city has been working to attract new businesses and improve its image. The Central Valley's agriculture provides some economic stability. Stockton serves as a distribution center for farm products. The Port of Stockton handles cargo from around the world. Climate change poses new challenges for Stockton and the Central Valley. More frequent droughts threaten farming, which is important to the local economy. Extreme heat makes the area less attractive to residents and visitors. Will Stockton survive the city will probably continue to exist, but it may struggle with the same problems of crime, poverty, and poor services. Unless major changes happen, Stockton could remain one of California's most troubled cities. Chattanooga, Tennessee. The comeback kid. After visiting so many struggling towns, it's time for some good news. Chattanooga, Tennessee shows how cities can turn things around with smart planning, hard work, and a little luck. This city proves that American towns can still reinvent themselves and thrive. In the 1970s, Chattanooga was in terrible shape. The city was so polluted that people could barely see across downtown on some days. Factories pumped out smoke and chemicals. The Tennessee River was dirty. Many people thought Chattanooga was dying just like other industrial cities. But instead of giving up, Chattanooga's leaders decided to fight back. They made cleaning up the environment their top priority. Strict pollution controls forced factories to clean up or shut down. The city invested in parks and green spaces along the river. The cleanup worked better than anyone expected. By the 1990s, Chattanooga had some of the cleanest air of any major city in the Southeast. The Tennessee River became clean enough for swimming and fishing again. People started calling it the Scenic City instead of the Dirty City. The cost of living remains reasonable compared to larger cities. People can afford to buy houses, start businesses, and raise families. This attracts both young professionals and retirees looking for affordable places to live well. Crime rates have fallen as the city improved. Better lighting, more police patrols, and increased foot traffic downtown made the city safer. Families feel comfortable walking around the city center in the evening. Chattanooga still faces some challenges. Like most southern cities, it has struggled with racial inequality and poverty in some neighborhoods. Not all residents have benefited equally from the city's success. The city also competes with Nashville, Atlanta, and other growing southern metros for businesses and residents. Continued success will require ongoing investment and smart planning. But overall, Chattanooga's transformation has been remarkable. The city went from one of America's most polluted places to one of its most livable in just a few decades. It shows that cities can change their futures with the right vision and commitment. Will Chattanooga survive Not only will it survive, but it will probably continue growing and improving. The city has momentum on its side, and leaders who understand what it takes to succeed in the modern economy. Chattanooga's success offers lessons for other struggling cities. Clean up the environment, invest in downtown, build good transportation systems, attract diverse industries, support education, create amenities that make people want to live there. Not every city can copy Chattanooga exactly, But the basic principles apply everywhere. Cities that adapt to change and invest in their futures can succeed. Those that don't may join the growing list of American towns that didn't make it. Bentonville, Arkansas. The Walmart miracle. Most people have never heard of Bentonville, Arkansas. This small town in the northwest corner of Arkansas was just another farming community for most of its history. It had a few thousand people, some local businesses, and not much else to make it special. Today, Bentonville is one of the fastest growing small cities in America. What changed everything was one local businessman named Sam Walton. In 1962, Walton opened the first Walmart store in nearby Rogers, Arkansas. He chose to keep his company headquarters in Bentonville, the small town where he lived. Most business experts thought Walton was making a mistake. Big companies were supposed to have headquarters in major cities like New York or Chicago. How could a retail empire be run from rural Arkansas? But Walton liked small-town life and wanted to stay close to his roots. As Walmart grew into the world's largest retailer, Bentonville grew with it. The company needed thousands of employees at its headquarters. Suppliers from around the world opened offices in Bentonville to be close to their biggest customer. What started as a farming town became a global business center. The town has also been smart about planning its growth. Instead of allowing sprawl to destroy the countryside, Bentonville has focused development in key areas while preserving natural spaces. The trail system connects different parts of town and provides recreation for residents. Bentonville faces some challenges as it grows. Traffic has increased significantly. Housing costs are rising faster than wages for some workers. The town needs to balance growth with preserving what makes it special. Some critics argue that Bentonville's success depends too much on one company. If Walmart's business declines significantly, the town could face serious problems. But Walmart shows no signs of weakness, and the town is attracting other employers too. The rapid growth has created some social tension. Longtime residents sometimes feel like their small town is becoming too big and changing too fast. Newcomers from other states bring different values and expectations. Will Bentonville survive to 2030? Not only will it survive, but it will probably keep growing rapidly. The town has everything modern families want: good jobs, excellent schools, safe neighborhoods, and plenty of recreation opportunities. Bentonville proves that small towns can succeed in the modern economy with the right combination of factors. A major employer provides the economic base. Smart investments in amenities attract residents and visitors. Good planning manages growth while preserving quality of life. But Bentonville also shows how much luck is involved. Very few towns have a Sam Walton who builds a global company and chooses to stay home. Most small towns can't count on having the world's largest retailer move in next door. The future of small-town America. What does all this mean for the future of American communities? The trends we've seen will probably continue. Some towns will disappear completely. Others will shrink to tiny shadows of their former selves. A few will find ways to reinvent themselves and thrive. Technology will play a bigger role in determining which communities survive. Towns with fast internet and digital skills will attract remote workers and online businesses. Those without reliable connectivity will be left behind. Climate change will reshape the map of American settlement. Some places will become too hot, too dry, too wet, or too dangerous to live in comfortably. People will move toward areas with stable climates and reliable water supply. The aging of America will affect small towns differently than big cities. Rural areas already have older populations on average. As baby boomers retire and need more health care, some small towns near cities might attract retirees looking for quiet, affordable places to live. Young people will continue to be the key to community survival. Towns that can attract and keep young families will have futures. Those that only appeal to older residents will slowly fade away as their populations age. As America continues to change, we'll keep watching to see which communities find ways to adapt and thrive, and which ones become memories of what once was. The future of small-town America is still being written, one choice and one community at a time.